All right, hi guys. It's good to see you again. I'm Miss Barbara back again for a wonderful Sunday school lesson. I hope you had a great week. I know I did. It was my last week of school. I am so excited to be starting summer vacation, and I'm sure you guys are too. All right, so I've got a wonderful story for us today, so let's get started. Today, we're going to learn that God helps us stand strong. We'll learn about 3 friends who had an adventure and stood strong together. All right, so we're going to be reading from Daniel 3. And friends are great. I have 2 good friends that I work with at work, and we just like to get together and we talk, and it's just great to have really good friends. And when it gets hard to make the right choices, sometimes friends can help us stand strong. God helps us stand strong too. And one way he helps us is by giving us the Bible. And the Bible is amazing. I've just learned so many great stories from the Bible, and I've really enjoyed teaching these lessons to you because it's been great to hear stories that I'm not as familiar with. Like I just said, it's full of incredible stories, and they're all true. So we're going to hear from God as we explore the Bible, and we're going to talk to him right now. All right, you ready? Okay. Well, first, when the sun or light shines on an object, we see its shadow, and the shadow proves that the object is there. I don't have my flashlight, I forgot it. But for example, like if I hold my hand up here, you can see I have a shadow, right? So you could experiment with that today and maybe get a flashlight and create shadows and do different things. It's really fun. Well, in our Bible story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew that the fire in the furnace was real, and they might really get hurt, even killed, if they refused to bow down and worship the statue. But God helped them to stay strong, and even as they were thrown into the furnace. So I want you to think about fire for a minute. What are all the things fire can do? You know, fire has some good qualities to it, and fire can also be very dangerous. You know, let's say you want to you're camping and you want to build a campfire and you want to roast marshmallows, and that's fun. I know when our electricity was out months ago, we had to have a fire in the fireplace to heat us, to keep us warm. So there's lots of good qualities about fire. Well, there's also some really dangerous qualities about fire as well. You know, things could get out of hand, and maybe a house could burn down and you could lose everything. It could burn down forests and trees, and that can also be really bad. So there's some good and there's some bad. Well, and it certainly could have killed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But watch and see something fire can't do. So I want to show you something. So I have this little thing, you've probably seen it, and you can use it to start fires, stuff like that. Okay, well, I want you to watch on the wall, because remember how I showed you, you can see my shadow? Okay, well, as you can see, you aren't seeing a shadow per se of that. So you see the shadow, but you're not seeing the shadow of the fire. Okay, so the flame, it's like the flame's not even there. So fire doesn't block light like my hand does, so it doesn't create a shadow. And fire couldn't hurt the 3 friends in our Bible story because God rescued them from the flames. It was like the fire wasn't even there. So I want you to think about a time that something turned out better than you thought it would. For example, like this year, I found out I was going to have to move schools, and I wasn't really excited about that. But now it's going to turn out better than I thought it would be. It's going to be super exciting, and I'm going to be at the same school as my husband and lots of other friends. So it turned out better than I thought. So today, think about that. Think about a time that maybe something happened and it was better than you thought it would be. Well, in our Bible story, it appeared that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be killed by the fire, but God chose to rescue them. God's light is more powerful than other people, even people who are trying to get us to do something wrong. God helps us stay strong for Him. Even when it seems like we're alone, He's with us and will help us. So we're going to dig into our Bible story. We're going to learn about a king who wanted people to go against God's plan, and we'll see how 3 men stood strong because God helps us stand strong. The Bible is true, so we know this really happened. Okay, so I'm going to read to you from Daniel 3, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of God 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Okay, well, today, statues aren't something people worship, but this statue was huge, and King Nebuchadnezzar wanted everyone to bow down and worship it. So let's think of things that people worship or put first today. You know, a lot of people think the YouTube stars are great and they, want to do everything like they do and all these things, sometimes football heroes, sports figures, things like that. Well, even when everyone is worshiping things besides God, God helps us stand strong. So here's what Nebuchadnezzar said about his statue. So now I'm going to read to you from Daniel chapter 3. We're still in chapter 3, verses 4 through 6. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "Nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the lyre, the harp, the pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." Oh my goodness. Well, in the Bible, everyone bowed when they heard the music because that's what the king said to do, and they didn't want to go into a blazing furnace, except for 3 men. And someone told the king about them. All right, so let's read about that. So Daniel chapter 3, verse 12. "But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." Now remember, do you remember what King Nebuchadnezzar said is going to happen to these people if they didn't bow down? Remember, he's going to throw them into that burning furnace. So King Nebuchadnezzar got really mad because, he told them that's what they were supposed to do. And he told the 3 men he would give them one more chance to bow down. And if they didn't obey, he'd throw them into that blazing furnace. Well, think about, some things that might happen to kids today if they don't go along with what someone else is doing. Think about your friends. Sometimes your friends are like, well, if you don't do this with me, you're not my friend anymore, or, something like that. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew that God could help them be strong. And this is what they said. Okay, so let's listen to this. So now it's chapter 3 the whole time, but now we're verse 16 through 18. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, 'King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up.'" Oh, they are so brave because, they knew God would help them stand strong. And so they were ready. They were ready to stand strong. even if God didn't protect them from the fiery furnace. That made the king even more mad. He ordered that the heat of the furnace be turned up 7 times hotter than usual. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, God helped Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stand strong, but he didn't stop King Nebuchadnezzar from throwing them in the furnace. So they're still going to have to go into that furnace. He's not going to stop that. Okay, so this is verses 20 through 23. He commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. So the 3 men are still okay, but the soldiers were killed because the fire is so hot. But remember, God helps us stand strong. Okay, so something happened in that furnace. When the king looked inside, he saw an extra person. Okay, so this is Daniel 3:25. He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Interesting, don't you think? So even though Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fiery furnace, God was with them. God is with us when we need to stand strong for him too. Nebuchadnezzar was so amazed by what God did for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that he called them out of the furnace. You think they'd be burned, but listen to this. And the prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Amazing. Oh my gosh, that is just amazing. God helped those men stand strong. And because of their boldness and what God did, Nebuchadnezzar made a new rule that no one could say anything bad about God, the real God. When God helps us stand strong for him, he can use that to show others how amazing he is. So think about an area in your life where you need to stand strong. Have you, had some friends that were talking about somebody else or saying mean things about somebody else, and they wanted you to join in, but you knew you needed to stand strong and not do that? So talk about that today, maybe with your parents or with your friends. Think about times when we need to stand strong, even though it's hard, but we know God will help us stand strong. And it's hard. It's hard to stand strong and do the right things. But for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there were big consequences for standing strong, and they could have died. But they were ready to stand strong because God helps us stand strong. And he can help you in every situation you face. I hope you've enjoyed our lesson today. I love doing these lessons with you guys, and there's been times when I've needed to stand strong, even though it was hard, but I knew God was going to help me stand strong. So I hope you know that God will help you stand strong. So let's do a little prayer before we end our lesson. God, you help us stay strong. On our own, we won't always make the right choices, but you'll help us to be strong like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Thank you for your help. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, that's the end of our lesson. I hope you really enjoyed it and that you remember God helps us stay strong, and share that with your friends. Tell them about this story too. Okay, and I hope you have a great summer and you get to do lots of fun things. And I know I'm going to enjoy my summer. All right, so I enjoyed this lesson with you guys today, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.